The moment you start explaining, you lose control. It doesn't feel like a mistake. In fact, it feels like the right thing to do. You're being clear, precise, making sure everything is understood. But in that exact moment, something shifts, subtle, almost invisible. And once it happens, people stop seeing certainty and start sensing doubt. The more you try to clarify, the more your words begin to feel like they need support. And when your message needs support, it stops feeling strong on its own. That's when the dynamic changes. You're no longer leading the interaction, you're reacting to it. And the worst part? You don't even notice when it happens. But once you see this pattern, you'll never communicate the same way again. It usually starts in a moment that feels completely normal. You're in a conversation, maybe at work, maybe with someone you respect. You say something, and then it happens. Someone questions you or misunderstands a small part of what you said, not aggressively, just enough to create a slight tension. And instantly, something automatic kicks in. You begin to add more explanation, more context, more detail. You start expanding your point, trying to make it airtight, clear, complete, impossible to misinterpret. In your mind, you're doing the right thing. You're being precise, professional, thoughtful. But beneath that surface, something subtle is changing. The moment you go beyond what was necessary, your focus shifts. You're no longer just expressing your point, you're trying to control how it's received. Your tone becomes slightly faster, your delivery slightly denser, your energy slightly reactive. And people pick up on that immediately. Not consciously, but instinctively. Because in every interaction, people aren't just listening to your words, they're reading how certain you are while saying them. What makes this pattern so dangerous is that it feels like control. In your mind, you're strengthening your message. You're making it more complete, more precise, harder to question. But from the outside, the signal is completely different. Because the moment your words need reinforcement, they stop feeling self-sufficient. And when something doesn't feel self-sufficient, people don't fully trust it. They start evaluating it. That's the shift. And it doesn't happen in your first sentence. It happens in everything that comes after it. That second explanation you didn't need, that extra clarification, that additional example meant to make it clearer. Each layer seems small, almost harmless, but together they send a consistent signal that your message might not be enough on its own. And here's the part almost no one notices. The more you try to close every possible gap, the more gaps you actually create. Because instead of sounding clear, you start sounding like you're trying to prevent disagreement, like you're managing the reaction in real time, anticipating objections that haven't even been made, filling silence that didn't need to be filled. And that changes everything. You're no longer setting the tone of the interaction, you're adjusting to it. That subtle urgency, that need to make sure everything lands perfectly, becomes visible. Because certainty has a very specific rhythm. It's direct, it's contained, it doesn't rush to prove itself. But the moment that rhythm breaks, when your delivery becomes slightly faster, slightly heavier, slightly more reactive, people feel it instantly, not as effort, but as doubt.
And once that perception is there, everything starts to change. Not in a dramatic way, not instantly, but gradually, consistently, your presence begins to lose weight. People start interacting with you differently. They interrupt you more easily. They don't always wait for you to finish. They question your points more often, even when you're right. And it's not because your ideas are weak, it's because your delivery made them feel like they should question it. Because when your words sound like they need support, your authority starts to feel conditional, like it depends on how well you explain, how much you justify, how clearly you defend. And the moment authority feels conditional, people stop accepting it at face value. They start testing it. Now compare that to someone who communicates differently. They make their point, clear, direct, and then they stop. No extra layers, no rush to fill the silence, no attempt to control every possible interpretation. And that silence does something powerful. It creates space. Space for their words to land, space for others to process, space for the message to carry weight on its own. That silence isn't empty, it's a signal. It communicates composure, control, self-trust. But when that space disappears, when every pause is filled, every idea extended, every sentence followed by another, something shifts. The message becomes heavier, less focused, harder to follow. And instead of gaining strength, it starts to lose impact. Not because of what you're saying, but because of how much you feel the need to keep saying it. Over time, this creates a pattern. People don't just listen, they analyze. They don't just receive, they look for gaps. They don't just accept, they test. And all of that starts from something that felt completely harmless, trying to explain just a little more than necessary. Now here's where everything starts to change. Because once you see this pattern clearly, you can't unsee it. And that awareness gives you something most people never develop: control over how your presence is felt in real time. But the shift isn't about forcing yourself to speak less randomly. It's about removing the need behind your words. The need to be validated, the need to be fully understood, the need to make everything land perfectly. Because that need is what has been weakening your communication. So the first adjustment is simple but uncomfortable. The next time you make a point, finish it and stop. No automatic second sentence, no extra clarification, no added layer just in case. Just let it land. At first, this will feel unnatural. You'll feel the impulse to keep going, to reinforce, to explain, to make sure it was understood exactly as you intended. But that impulse is exactly where you've been losing control. Every time you resist it, something shifts. Your words start to feel more grounded, your delivery becomes more contained, your presence becomes more stable. Then you refine how you respond under pressure. When someone questions you, you don't rush to defend, you don't overcorrect, you don't try to close every gap. You answer clearly, directly, and then you pause. That pause is where your authority becomes visible, because it signals something most people never communicate: that you trust what you just said without needing to reinforce it. And finally, you start using silence with intention. Not as absence, but as control. Instead of filling every gap, you allow space. You let your words settle. You give the interaction room to breathe. And in any environment where presence matters, composure speaks louder than explanation ever will. At the highest level, this isn't just about communication. It's about identity. Because the way you speak reflects how stable you feel in what you're saying. And when you constantly reinforce your words, you're not just adding clarity, you're revealing a subtle dependence on how others respond, a quiet need for your message to be accepted. But the moment that need disappears, everything changes. Your presence becomes calmer, sharper, more controlled. People stop experiencing you as someone trying to be understood and start seeing you as someone who understands. And that shift is immediate. Your words begin to carry more weight, not because you say more, but because you don't need to. You speak with intention, and you stop with certainty, and that restraint becomes your signal. So the next time you feel the urge to explain more, pause. Let your words stand on their own. Let the silence do what most people never allow it to do. Create presence. Because respect isn't built by saying more. It's built by needing less. And once you understand that, you stop trying to prove your value, and people start recognizing it automatically. If this changed the way you see communication, subscribe for more insights on high-level presence, mindset, and personal growth.